This is The Sports Life.
And now Michigan State takes it away. We're going the other way. Here's Akins for a three. He got it!
In transition, beautiful defense by Pierce, forced a turnover, and Akins finally knocking down the three.
I am proud of our guys for coming back. I mean, they could have quit on us a little bit. They weren't playing very good. We were 10 down, and we weren't very good at all, but we found a way to come back, and that was important.
And welcome into the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, Tom Izzo, I don't know what he did with this group of people, but he's got him into the Sweet 16. He began the year with an unproven point guard, only one real scorer, all kinds of questions along the post. But he did bring in some people, but they were both mid-majors, never played at this level. And you go, how's this all going to work? Well, it works pretty good. He's in the Sweet 16, and he won the Big Ten by 3 full games. So I guess the maestro knows what he's doing. Well, this week we have a nice show lined up for you. We're going to do some reflecting on some of the great stories that have been told on this program. And one of them is a visit we're going to revisit with Tracy Wolfson of CBS. Just such a wonderful individual, and she has done so many good things. I think that conversation is worth a re-listen.
Absolutely, and a lot of times working those same broadcasts, but from a different angle and a different chair, is Rick LaLonde, who we'll be introduced to later on as well. Leads statistician and research analyst for CBS. More than 3 decades plus of experience of Final Fours. We're going to have some great stories for you there as well.
Well, let's get going with our sounds of the week.
It's March Madness. And is one of the best things about March Madness not just game winners? We finally got one here in this NCAA tournament. Maryland defeated Colorado State in the round of 32, and we got for you 3 different radio calls of the game-winning shot by Derek Queen to send the Terps to the Sweet 16. We'll start with the voice of the Terps, Johnny Holiday. The second call you'll hear is from Westwood One, and the third one is from Tyler Lochte, a student there at Maryland. Let's listen to all 3 of them.
Gillespie looks to inbound. There it goes to Queen. Queen will drive in against Morton. Queen with a shot off the glass. Got it! And the Terrapins have won it at the buzzer on a shot, oh my goodness, by Derek Queen. 72-71, and we're heading to San Francisco. It's about time.
Gillespie looking to throw it in. Gets it up top to Queen. Dribbling left. Big step down the lane. Runner for the win. Banked it in! He banked it in! He banked it in! And Maryland has won! Maryland is going to the Sweet 16. Derek Queen with a runner left of the lane. Banked it in. And for the first time since 2016, the Maryland Terrapins are going to the Sweet 16.
He finds Queen. Queen turns, puts it up at the buzzer, and in! Maryland is headed to the Sweet 16 for the second time in 22 years. It's the freshman Derek Queen. He's a Maryland hero.
He's a Maryland hero. Yeah, that's a heck of a shot. And it's kind of interesting. We haven't had a lot of that in this tournament.
No, this to me, Will, has felt like one of the least dramatic March Madnesses we've had in some time.
I did chuckle a little bit when I heard Kevin Willard, the Maryland coach, say after the game, we've lost a few like this. It's about time we win one like this.
They have had some heartbreak down the home stretch of the season, so for them to get one back feels good for the Terps. And speaking of Kevin Willard and Derek Queen, Queen was asked a little bit about why they listen and trust Kevin Willard so much. This was a pretty funny answer that came out from the NCAA tournament.
First, he do pay us the money, and then so we got to listen to him, and we all trust him because he's like a player coach, and then he want nothing but the best for us, and he just he coaches hard. He talked to us other than basketball. He's just always there and just want us to win.
Welcome to the new college basketball world.
How about that?
Yeah, how about that?
Well, let's move on, because while there's so much jubilation and fun maybe in some different parts of this, there is sadness, right? In March Madness, a lot of teams get eliminated, and 32 were eliminated in this opening weekend. One of them was from the Big Ten Conference, the Fighting Illini from Illinois, and head coach Brad Underwood met with his team after the game in the locker room, and this is what it sounds like on the other end of things as Coach Underwood talks to his players about the end of the season.
For all your work, I thank you. Okay? There's one thing that you all have. My number. You don't believe me when I tell you this. I couldn't be prouder that you have it, and when someday comes and you need me, you have me. Whatever it is, you have me. You can pick up the phone. The one thing that you guys have to get through is understanding in cell phones, there's no relationships in there. The relationships are with the people that you just did this with. You got beat at stocks. You win, you enjoy it. But the lifelong relationships that you make while you're here last a lifetime.
Brad Underwood, Illinois head coach, after they got defeated in this year's NCAA tournament. Heartfelt.
Mm-hmm. And for that team, it felt like it never quite came all the way together for that squad. But boy, that really gives you a peek behind the curtain at what coaching's all about for some of these people and Brad Underwood's relationships with his players. And speaking of coaching, some are just getting into the Big Ten. Nico Medved, who is actually the Colorado State head coach, it was announced as the next Minnesota head men's basketball coach. He actually had started out his kind of basketball career as a manager at Minnesota. How full circle things come. He's now the head coach, and he talked a little bit about his childhood dream coming true.
I know how rare it is to live a life that you dreamed of. And, gosh, I think my dad, you were telling me yesterday via text, I think it was before I was born, so I'm 51, so before I was born, my dad had season tickets to go for basketball. Maybe I was 5 or 6 years old. And I remember going to the barn and watching games. I remember where our seats were, their kitty corner, from where our gopher bench is now. I grew up going to games. I love the energy in the barn. It's where I really started to love college basketball. I had an opportunity. I played all the sports growing up. I had an opportunity to come as a student manager. I've been an assistant coach here. I've taken my teams here at Furman and Drake to play. It's just a magical place. And so, to be back here right now, it just feels surreal. All I wanted was an opportunity to be a Division I head basketball coach, and to see it all come full circle here is just really, really amazing.
Well, it's interesting also, we now have 2 former managers as head coaches in the Big Ten. Dusty May was a manager at Indiana. Of course, he's the head coach of Michigan.
It's really kind of funny how that all has worked out and transpired for those coaches. The last sound of the week that we're going to play for you actually comes from East Lansing and Michigan State head coach Tom Izzo, because as he and the Spartans are getting ready for the Sweet 16 and they're moving on, right, in March Madness, well, at the same time, coinciding is the transfer portal opening up. And he was asked about the transfer portal. Now, we've cut this a lot down, but this was a very long dialogue that Tom Izzo had about the transfer portal. Here's a selection of it.
But what my team's done has been incredible. And I'm not ready to move on. So, Judd, I've followed what you said. I'm going to worry today about the guys I got in this program that have done an incredible job this year. And that's it. And if that costs me later, so be it. But Tom Izzo isn't cheating the people that he has that have been loyal to him for this chaos that is going on out there. Is that cool? You got enough? No, because you don't understand. When I came back Sunday night, that was it. There was nothing on my mind but giving these guys a chance to win one more game, get to Elite Eight, and one more game, and have a memory that'll last their entire life, their kids' life, and their grandkids' life, because that's what it is. And so excuse me for being passionate about it or pissed off about it, whichever words you want to use, but I'm I'm not going to talk about it because it's not fair. It's not fair to the people. You could say it's fair to your program. I'll run my program like I want to run my program. And people have a disagreement with that, God bless them. But these guys that gave me everything they could give me are going to have a chance. And I'm not going to screw it up by spending any time on other stuff other than, I don't eat, I don't sleep right now. So why in the hell would I do something else that might benefit me a year from now? And really, it's not going to benefit me now because I don't know what I have. I don't know how much money I have. I don't know which players are leaving or staying. I don't have any idea. So why would I do that? Waste of time.
Tom Izzo, his feeling about the portal. And like Dalton said, there was more. You got to appreciate what he's saying there.
Yeah, and he also called the portal at one point during his dialogue the urinal, which I thought was funny. And I actually saw a comment on social media. I want to give credit to whoever it is, but I can't remember the name. They said maybe the portal potty was taken.
Whoa.
It could be a new name.
Could be a new name. Could be a new name. But there's no doubt Coach Izzo and his guys are focused as they're going to play Ole Miss coming up in the Sweet 16. Back with more of the Sports Life and a wonderful chat with Tracy Wolfson in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Every kid deserves a chance to feel safe, to have their own bed, to be loved and cared for. That's why I love my foster parents. They make me feel like part of the family.
Raise hope and foster dreams for one of 13,000 Michigan children in foster care. Visit michigan.gov/hope for a home or call 855-MICH-KIDS. That's 855-MICH-KIDS. Sponsored by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
You hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor?
Yes, I am.
Yay. My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, over the life of this show, we've had a chance to visit with some of the fascinating people that make listening and watching sports a real joy. And one of those people works for CBS, and her name is Tracy Wolfson. You see her on the Final Four. You see her in Super Bowls. Well, we had a chance to talk with her in a previous moment, and we thought we'd bring it back since we're kind of getting into that Final Four spirit. And we began our chat with her by asking, where did this journey begin?
Yeah, so it started for me. I was about, 7, 8, 9 years old. I was in elementary school, and I was a little tomboy. Didn't grow up alongside any brothers. My dad wasn't a huge sports fan, like games, certainly. And I watched alongside him. But my parents would find me door closed in my room, watching sports till all hours of the night. And one of the shows I would watch was the NBA Inside Stuff, and I remember watching Ahmad Rashad and Willow Bay at the same time, and I watched her, and I said, that's what I want to do. I want to talk sports for the rest of my life, and that's really when it started, and I never let up on it. I, throughout school didn't obviously do much, but I would find myself in my room. I'd call games on my phone, or not my phone, of course, my recorder at the time. Would, do some play-by-play or just reporting. I'd watch everyone on TV. And then when it came time to go to, school, I chose Michigan. Now, they don't have necessarily a broadcast journalism department, but I chose Michigan because it was big-time sports, and I knew I'd be surrounded by it. I'd be able to talk about it. I'd be immersed in it. And, of course, it was, a top academic school as well. So that combination is why I went there. So that's really where my passion for sports and for sports broadcasting started.
Well, Tracy, we probably should mention this since we are in the Big Ten Network. You're a University of Michigan grad. So why does an East Coast person pick Michigan? Why did you do that, and what did you get to do when you were at Michigan?
Well, actually, I didn't get to cover anything because they didn't, like I said, they didn't really have any opportunity to do that. I didn't work for the television station, but my first moment was I took a class called Sports and Daily Life in Ancient Rome. And honestly, it was my freshman year. I only took it because it had the word sports in it. And I remember walking in and sitting next to me, there's a guy with his legs drawn out 4 rows in front of me, and who is it but Juwan Howard? And that was my first moment of, okay, I'm at the Michigan and I'm alongside the Fab Five. And Chris Webber had left by that point, but the rest of the guys were around. I played rec basketball, and Travis Conlon, who was one of the backup point guards alongside Dugan Fife, was our coach for a lot of it. We dabbled, around with everyone. We were involved. And then one of the things I got to do, I was a runner for CBS Sports. Through an internship, I got to be a runner for CBS and ABC whenever they would come and do the football games and the basketball games, and I would get the announcers. I mean, Vern Lundquist, I was getting him, water or coffee. I was hanging signs around the, arenas and answering phones in trucks and really getting the experience of broadcasting a live event, but also being alongside the broadcast personalities like a Vern Lundquist. So those were some of the things I got to experience. And then I was a fan. I went to every single game. My friends and I, we painted our faces. We wore our maize and blue. We hung in there in the rain and the cold weather, you name it. I slept outside for the Duke-Michigan game in a tent to get good seats for that one. And I remember the first person I met walking in, I think I was like 8th or 10th online, was Dick Vitale. And that was very cool for me. So that was a fun memory. I went to the Rose Bowl when Michigan was there right after I had graduated, but of course that same year. So unbelievable, athletic and memories while I was in Ann Arbor.
Well, Tracy, one of the things you have been able to do is sort of open up the doors for people behind you who want to be sportscasters, who love the sport, have skill, and you've kind of opened the door for them. So what's your take on what's in front of women who would like to be like you?
Yeah, well, it warms my heart when you say that, because it's something I'm extremely passionate about, is paying it forward and trying to pave the way for others like others did for me. And, when I was, younger getting into this business, I didn't have role models. I didn't have anyone I can talk to or call up or ask questions. How do I do this? It took me 4 or 5 years to get my first on-air job because there was no path. There was no way to, figure it out. And now there is. I mean, whether it's through, college or whether it's through alumni bases or just people or meet or, taking the extra step and reaching out to them or connections. It is. I mean, watching Beth, watching Lisa, I texted Lisa throughout the tournament, and every time I watch her on a Michigan game, of course, I always chat her. It's just so impressive what they've also been able to do is just to break into another area of the business that really is predominantly male. And, I think we're really making headway here. I mean, think in every aspect of this industry. And, there's still so much more to be done. But I think as a collective group, we can get it done and continuously pave that path. And I think it's really about just being open and helping others. And Leslie Visser is that one for me who always to this day still reaches out, sends me kind notes and texts and go get them and great job. And it's just that support system. And that's how I've, been able to learn from her and been able to pass that on to others. And I always try and make myself available. And, I just been mentoring students nonstop and just spoke with one yesterday and, to try and be able so that they too have that opportunity. And hopefully, one day when they get into this role, they pay it forward as well.
So, Tracy, you go from this 8-9-year-old little girl thinking this is a neat thing to do. And now that you are a role model, do you ever stop and think that I'm a role model? How'd that happen?
I think about it all the time. I have to be honest. I say to myself, I can't believe I'm actually doing what I wanted to do when I was that young. That's very rare. It's very hard. There's a lot that goes into it. Certainly, of course, determination and, eagerness and not giving up. But there's a lot of luck that plays a role in it as well, being in the right place at the right time. And then there's just a lot of characteristics, just being easy to work with, being a good person, being willing to, help out and do anything. It's a combination of everything. I look back often and I think about the road it took to get where I am. I would never say I'd like to do it over again or there was an easier path. I do think it's an easier path now, and I urge students to get that tape and really get all that hands-on experience as soon as possible so you don't have to take that roundabout route. I was very lucky. I met my husband, very quickly after college, also a Michigan grad. And it was a big thing for me to say to him, look, I want to get in front of the camera. I want to be on air, and I might have to move to Missoula, Montana, and you have to be okay with that. And so we put off our relationship until that actually, came to be where I knew I was on, in front of the camera and on my way to that path. And, there's a lot that goes into all of that. So when I look back and say, I can't believe it, and I do, it's in moments like a Super Bowl. It's in moments like a Final Four, or those historic moments when you say to yourself, oh my God, I'm part of history here. How did it come to be? And, I think back to just the path and the determination and not giving up. I didn't know I had it in me. I got to be honest. You don't know that as a kid. And there's a lot of things you learn along the way. I think there's a big part of this job is you really have to be independent and you have to be comfortable with being alone and on your own a lot, because you are. And, advocating for yourself. And there's so many characteristics I've learned along the way that I didn't realize I had to have to be good at this job and to be successful at it and have such longevity.
Well, it's been a good run. And the other thing I think you bring to the table, besides knowledge and a nice presence with a mic in your hand in front of a camera, and I mentioned this at the very, very beginning, and you have something that you can't teach, and they don't teach it in the classroom because they cannot. And that is there's a warmth about you, and there's a friendliness about you, as well as the understanding that we think this person has the goods. She knows what she's talking about. And that's a magic thing to have. And I congratulate you for that, because whenever I see you do a game where I'm watching, I feel like I'm going to learn something. And it's a trusting feeling. And I don't always feel that way about all the folks I see on the tube. But I just think it's neat, your whole story. And it's and I will leave you with this one. The craziest photo I've seen in my life was Taco Fall, a 7'5" basketball player from UCF, and Tracy Wolfson, who at her best days 5'2", right?
Yes. It's pushing it.
Yeah. So that was So if anybody wants to see a great picture, go online and look that one up. You're only 2 feet difference there. That was crazy.
What was I doing, though? At that time, I don't know why I took my shoes off, because not like that like extra inch on my shoes is going to make a difference. But for some reason, I was barefoot in that photo. But that was a classic, no doubt, and one of those moments. And people still bring it up to this day. But thank you so much for those kind words, because it really does mean a lot to me. I absolutely love what I do. I know how fortunate I am, and I want others to be able to have the experience that I have. And I really appreciate, you guys having me on and talking about my career, because, I don't often get a chance to reflect, and it is really nice to have that time to be able to do that. And if I can inspire others in any way, I hope to do that. So thank you for those kind words. They're extremely sweet of you.
Well, you are very welcome, Tracy.
Thank you, guys.
Tracy Wolfson from CBS, one of the really good ones. Well, when we come back, we're going to have some more reflection. But first, a break right here on The Sports Life.
So, I got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
That ought to do it. Totally energy efficient.
Oh no, not again. This time, we're getting help.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the battle of energy efficiency improvements. In this corner, Mr. I can save money and do it on my own. And in this corner, Miss Let's get it done right with some help. Fight!
Or you could just go to avoidenergydrama.com. From sealing your home to helpful loan options, you'll find all the tips and tools you need to stop wasting energy and stay comfortable. Avoidenergydrama.com. Brought to you by Michigan Saves.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see. Depression won't show up on an eye chart, and you can't measure it on your bathroom scale. Sorting out a mental health concern is not something to attempt on your own. You won't find a bipolar disorder by looking at a thermometer. Like many other health conditions, help for mental illness takes professional diagnosis and treatment. Anxiety won't just go away under a stick-on bandage. So the sooner you seek treatment, the better. If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. Find out what to do. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support. That's samhsa.gov/support.
And welcome back for more of The Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget, auto owners insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you. A lot of great stories when it comes to the Final Four and the people that make that event so special. Some you see and some you don't. And one of those people is Rick LaLonde. He's a statistician and a research person for CBS when it comes to college basketball. Well, several years ago, he announced he was retiring. And so we had a chance to catch up with him and reflect on some of the great stories over 30-plus years of covering the Final Four with CBS. Well, we began that conversation with me asking, if you're a statistician and a research person, what exactly does that mean?
Well, I said it at courtside. Normally behind the official scorer, which is the only individual that sits at the scorer's table and wears a referee shirt, the same as the three guys on the floor, and I can communicate with them by yelling over the voices of about 75,000 people. And if there's a controversy on the floor or something needs to be clarified, I can communicate with him. And I also feed information to the trucks and to a statistician who is sitting beside our announcers as to what is actually taking place on the floor. Because as you know, or as anybody would remember, it takes more than one set of eyes to see everything on that floor, especially when you have 10 people plus 3 officials walking around getting in each other's way. But there's probably 50 to 75 people that listen to me at the Final Four. People in the studio back in New York, people in the trucks, people at courtside, because I give a lot more detail than what the announcers would be able to give over the air, because they have pictures that tell the story.
When I mention the word researcher, do you do a lot of research before you ever arrive at, say, in this case, New Orleans?
Yes, we do as much as we possibly can, and that's where you come up with a lot of the little intricacies, things that normally just the numbers alone don't come up with, and you sit around and you try to think of different things that you can pop up, like different records and things that normally wouldn't be seen at a normal weekday game.
Well, and Rick, I think the normal fan kind of consumes the broadcast and just kind of goes about their merry little way. They don't really see the massive amount of work that's kind of done like this, that's kind of behind the scenes. So you talk about the communication, you talk about some of the different research you put into it. What are some of the different things you do look for in your research that is so unique that casual fans would get to learn just from listening to the broadcast? Because again, I don't think they're paying attention in the weeds like you are.
Well, first of all, I'm not the only one that does that. We have a crew, statistical crew of many people, not only in New York but in the trucks with us, and everybody contributes. So I'm just one of a team, but. Some of the things that you can come up with. I'll give you a good example. A few years ago, I just said we're sitting around talking, and I came up with the idea. Well, when is the last time a technical foul was called in a national championship game? And we looked it up and verified it, and the last one was 1993 when Chris Webber of Michigan called a timeout against North Carolina when they didn't have any left, and that was a technical foul. Well, I had that record, and I have notes sitting next to me during the game that I keep, and if something pops up, then we can throw it into the computer and put it on the screen right away so people can see it at home. Unfortunately for Michigan, the next time a technical foul was called in a national championship game was when Michigan was playing Villanova. So the same team was called for technical foul, and that was the only one within 30-some years. But that was something that you keep these little ideas and you keep them beside you. And if they come up, you can be used. If they're not, then they just kind of collect dust next to you, but they'll pop up.
Okay, Rick, I'm going to take you down memory lane. You're this youngster in Toledo, Ohio, just looking for a little feedback on your work. What was your reaction 6 weeks after you send your tape to New York. You're actually working for CBS at a NASCAR race.
Well, when I sent the tape up, I was advised by an assistant news director there in Toledo. He said to send it up so I could get a grading and rating on it, because I was trying to get a job somewhere in the South, and I never had any thoughts or ideas that I could get connected to a network. And I sent it up there, and when I got the phone call from George Veras, he was the producer of the NFL Today with Brent Musburger and Jimmy the Greek Snyder and Irv Cross. And he was the producer, and it somehow fell into his hands. And he looked at it and called me and said that my shooting ability was exceptional. And he said I had a talent for being able to follow sports, where a lot of cameramen, can do still shots and set up things and stuff. He said I had an exceptional ability to be able to anticipate and follow sports. But he ended up, and I was listening to him, and I was shocked that he was talking the way he was, that as that I was trying to get a job there, and that's not what I intended to do. But when I picked my jaw up off the floor, I says, "Wow, oh, okay." He says, "Well, I'd like you to work at the Michigan 400, the stock car race in Michigan." He said, "That's close to you." He said, and told me who to see and who to report to, and they would put me to work. And it had just happened to be Bob Stenner, who was the lead producer there, and he went on and he was the lead producer of the NFL football games with John Madden and Pat Summerall, and that's how our working relationship started there. But it was a shock to me to fall into that hole.
Well, when we come back with more of the Sports Life, part 2 of our conversation, and some more really good stories from Rick LaLonde. But first, a break right here on the Sports Life.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just...
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, we're revisiting a great conversation we had with Rick LaLonde as he was retiring after 30-plus years of working the Final Four for CBS. And one of the questions we asked Rick during that conversation was for him to maybe think back to some of his favorite memories.
Well, I think the first one you go, but not only the first event that you worked is always something that you remember, but some of the things I think was working Julius Erving's last game. It was a playoff game up at Milwaukee, and everybody was kind of clamoring around, and one of the cameramen says, well, I'm going to get my press pass autographed, and so did I. And I went into the press room and got a final stat sheet, a couple of copies from the photocopy machine, the mimeograph machine back then, and I had him sign those too. So those are in a collection of souvenirs. But and also Ray Meyer's last game up at St. Louis. They were really struggling to stay with Arkansas, I believe it was, up at the St. Louis Coliseum. And Ray's wife was sitting in the front row, blessing herself, and she could just see that the end was coming near, and it was a struggle. It was really emotional to see that. A nice guy like Ray Meyer was coming to an end on his career also. Meeting Muhammad Ali at the Palace of Auburn Hills. He came in for a basketball game, and he was sitting there with some other handlers and some people like that. And I walked over, and there were some other people trying to get his autograph, and they were handing out pamphlets that were already pre-signed, and they handed it to me, and I said, no, that's not what I walked over across the floor to see. You know, I wanted to get him to sign something for me. It's to just sign a piece of paper, and because if I get an autograph, it's got to be signed in front of me, so that I know it's real. And Muhammad was sitting there, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I just kind of put my fist on my chest and kind of gave him a signal, and he just kind of smiled, and he says, okay, and he motioned for me to come over, and he signed it, a piece of paper right in front of me when his handlers didn't want him to sit there and sign things, but he signed it, and he just smiled and kind of gave me a fist bump, and away I went. But that was kind of a stunner. The NBA playoffs with the Chicago Bulls and the Pistons, those years, I had a player by the name of John Paxson who played his high school ball in Ohio at Kettering Alder High School, and then he went on to Notre Dame. And he was out on the floor before a Bulls game one day, and there was nobody else in the arena, and I saw him shooting, and I come up on the floor, and I said, there he is, John Paxson from downtown Kettering, Ohio, and he just kind of laughed. He says, you know about Kettering? I said, yeah, I covered you when you were in high school, and from then on, we kind of had a relationship, friendship, and I got, with my press pass, I was able to get in the locker room, and I would go down in the locker room before some of the games and sit there and talk with him, and you'd be sitting there, and there was another guy by the name of B.J. Armstrong and was sitting there, and out came Michael from the training room, and he's sitting there putting his shoes on and getting ready for the game, and we're just kind of sitting there having a nice conversation, real relaxed conversation. And I went out after they said it was the 10-minute cooling off period when everybody had to leave the locker room. Well, I'd leave, and then you walk out in the arena, and there's 20,000 people there in the old Chicago Stadium cheering and everything. And I said, oh, my God, what was I just doing? You know, I'm sitting there holding a friendly conversation with these mega stars, and it was pretty incredible feeling there.
I wanted to ask you, because you talked about you getting the box score signed by Dr. J. You had some of these conversations. You get an autograph from Muhammad Ali. And you talked to us before we actually started this interview and said that you keep all your credentials. And we're talking about 4 decades now that we're spanning across with all these credentials, all these different little mementos. How many do you think you might have, and where do you keep all of these? Do you have something you've built with these?
I have them in a box, basically. I've just been tossing them in a box, and I figured, well, when I retire, then I'll go through some of those and put them in a scrapbook or log them in somewhere or some way. But I do know that I've got at least a couple of thousand events, a couple of thousand games that I've worked in the last 39 years, and it's getting to be a pretty big box. So they just kind of get tossed in there, and it's going to be a collection and something I'm going to do after I retire, after I stop. But from college football and basketball, and I did a couple of years of Notre Dame football, and one of our sideline reporter was O.J. Simpson, and we were in the press box up at the old Notre Dame Stadium, and the guy in the box next to us on one side was Father Hesburgh, and the guy coming out of the VIP box next to us on the other side was a guy by the name of Regis Philbin. So, and I would have to leave our regular broadcast box to go out and at halftime, because they'd bring a camera into the broadcast booth, and I'd have to get out of the way. So I'm out there standing, and all of a sudden here comes this guy, and he starts talking about the game, and wanted to know what I was doing, and told him, and we started talking about stats. So every time I'd work a game at Notre Dame, if he was there, he would come out and talk with me. But that, and let's see, the Indy 500. I was at the Indy 500 one year, and I was standing outside in the entryway, and it just happened to be accidentally. I walked out, and there's the platform where the main speakers were doing the opening ceremonies, and there was Bob Hope standing there doing a speech, and I'm just standing there looking around, and this guy comes over and stands beside me, and he was about my age, and come to find out he was actually my age. So he says, man, I've never seen a crowd like this, and it's just huge. I've never seen this many people before. And I said, yeah. I said, I've never been here before. And I looked at him, and I said, you look kind of familiar. And he says, oh, he stuck his hand out and says, yeah, Ron Howard. It was Opie from the Andy Griffith Show. And it was kind of a stunner there, too. So he had to go up to a press box. But that was before selfies were invented. But I did take a picture of him walking away, and he kind of smiled at me and kept walking. But there's been a lot of opportunities, a lot of events over the years, because I had those seats at the Indy 500 for about 30 years, too.
Well, Rick,
it's just been a lot of things, you know.
Oh, I bet. Before we wrap this up, Rick, I think everybody who loves what they do, when they decide this is the last time they're going to do it, I just can't imagine there's not going to be some emotion here. So how are you feeling heading into this last Final Four?
Well, working the event itself is it's an incredible honor. And privilege. It really is to be standing there, especially at the beginning of the game, working with the crew, number one, and with their philosophies, which is, as you spoke earlier, let the pictures tell the story type of deal. But when you're standing there before the game and the national anthem is being played, and you look up in the arena, and there's 75,000 people there, and you realize, and I was told a few years ago by one of the technicians that we were sitting there relaxing. I said, jokingly, I said, do you think anybody's going to watch after all this work we've done? And he says, well, this game is available to over 1 billion people for the first time. And I said, you're got to be kidding me. And I sat up and straightened your tie and because I sat behind that scorer's table, and I'm on my faces on television a lot of times if you're looking for it. And I was just joking. It kind of sent a chill up your spine, but what really sent the chill up your spine is when they play that national anthem. And every year when during the national anthem, I look up in the sky or look up in the ceiling, and I thank God, I thank my parents, and I thank my high school coach. And every year the same thing for the privilege and honor of helping me get to that point. And one year we were standing there, and me and another guy next to me that is also on a headset. We're standing there doing the national anthem, and we're in a high security area. There's not supposed to be anybody in that second row because we're right up against the stands, and we're part of the control of the game and the broadcast. So nobody is allowed to be there that isn't part of that or isn't in those seats. And we're going through the national anthem, and all of a sudden somebody comes up behind me and they start bumping my shoulder. And I just kind of brushed it off as to somebody is just, walking through or whatever. Well, they bumped my shoulder again. They bumped into me. And I'm talking to my headset, looking straight forward because I know we're on camera. He said, "Turn around and look to your right." And I look to my right, and here it's Joe Biden standing behind me. They were just bringing him in to sit right behind me during the game. And I didn't even know that he was coming. Nobody had told me that he was there. And also President Bush was there, and his son, George Jr. was sitting down at the other end of the table, and I had to walk past them. And there's a lot of VIPs that sat behind me and in that section behind me. But and the Secret Service agents were, some were dressed as college students, were sitting behind me on the floor in the walkway. And anytime that I would turn around, because I'm a little more functional, I'm not just sitting there looking straight ahead. We're talking and watching things, and I turn around and looked, and boy, they're just focused in because I'm moving. And they're very protective of the vice, as he was at that time, the vice president. But there's a lot of memories there, and a lot of feeling in my heart that I really had a fantastic experience and the privilege and honor to be able to work that. But it's time, like Al McGuire told me, it's a lot of things that go with it, and it's just kind of time to hang it up and enjoy it on television from now on.
Well, Rick, I really appreciate you taking the time, sharing all these memories, and I also hope number 37 for you is fantastic, and I hope you have a great Final Four. And I know I'll see you somewhere along the way, and I just appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Will. It's a lot of great memories and a lot of honors, and I really appreciate you getting with me today.
So there you go. Some of our conversation with Rick LaLonde, statistician and researcher for CBS, as he was getting ready to work his Final Four. Back with more in a moment, right after this.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Anybody ready for a burger?
I'm State Fire Marshal Rich Miller, reminding everyone to think safety first when it comes to outdoor grilling, whether it's charcoal or gas. Never overload your grill with food. Excess fat and grease will create large flames. Grill outdoors and never inside or in a garage. Never leave a grill unattended, and always keep a fire extinguisher nearby. For more tips on safe grilling, visit the Bureau of Fire Services website at michigan.gov/BFS.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit InsureKidsNow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. A good show today as we reflected back on some of the really fun conversations we had as we head towards this year's Final Four. And with that, it is now time for our parting shots.
And by the way, I want to let everybody know that they can follow us on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, at SportsLifeNow is our handle. That's where you can give us a follow. We post the entire show back there as well. But for my parting shot, I wanted to take a look at what we've experienced so far in March Madness. And on the women's side, honestly, so much usually about March Madness is all about buzzer beaters, right? Cinderellas. There's so many positive stories. But there is a wet blanket on top of the women's March Madness this year, and it's because in the round of 32, Juju Watkins, the star for USC, went down and tore her ACL in a contest where the Trojans still ended up winning and moving on to the next round in the Sweet 16. But we're talking about a player who's scored more points than anybody else at her age. I mean, she broke the record and passed Caitlin Clark for being the youngest to eclipse the amount of points that she has. We're talking about maybe a generational type talent when it comes to scoring the ball. And to see her go down in March Madness, it's just quite simply heartbreaking. And obviously, thoughts and prayers go out to Juju Watkins and the family and all the players that kind of had to go through that. But nonetheless, it's really sad to see March Madness this year on the women's side is more highlighted by a downer of a story than an upper where we've had in years past.
And keeping along with that chain of thought about women's basketball in the women's NCAA tournament, it's going to be interesting to see the TV audience. Last year, it skied through the roof. Really powered by good teams and Caitlin Clark.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out with good teams and no Caitlin Clark. So with that, that's a wrap for our show. We sure appreciate everybody joining us. And we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcast, like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler and assisted by Owen Cronin. Our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton Shetler, I'm Will Tiemann, and thanks for your time.